Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video, and today is the day that we finally get to scratch that itch that's been collectively bothering us for what seems and feels like months, by the way, but we finally get over it despite it being just a week. We finally have somebody in the door, we finally have a signing to talk about that wasn't signed 6 frickin' months ago on a pre-contract. We're here to talk about the man, the myth, the meep meep himself, Mr. Max Aarons. So welcome, Mr. Max Aarons. We hope you hit it off well. We hope you can handle the pressure, and we hope you're going to have a very, very successful 12 frickin' months. Don't worry, we'll speak about it very, very shortly, because obviously we are here to react to the new signing, but we're also here to kick the tyres as well. Now, I know I've already done a rumour video regarding Max Aarons, but I do realise not everybody tunes in to those rumour videos, or they don't watch all of them, because they go ahead and have a wee look, but they didn't want to get invested, they didn't want to fall in love with a player they might not go ahead and sign, so they didn't really pay too much attention till they're going ahead and holding that scarf above their head. Well, they're doing it now, ladies and gentlemen, so that's why we're here to talk about it. But equally, in saying that, despite me knowing some people haven't watched the rumour video, I know there will be channel legends out there that go ahead and did. So what my hope and aim for today's video is, whether you watch the rumour video or no, every single person leaves today's video knowing just a little bit more about Max Aarons. And I think on the back of that, now with the air of mystery in question whether or not we will go ahead and sign him, and if he'll pick the Rangers project with the amount of offers that he had, I think that's the best place to actually start today's video, because I'm sitting here excited, right? I'm very, very excited about Max Aarons. I think I made that clear in the rumour video. I really, really like this one. But again, I'm not blind. I know and understand there is people, despite being happy about this loan signing, are actually frustrated about the terms of the deal and the fact that it is just a loan. There's no information regarding options to buy or obligations to buy or anything like that. It's just a 12-month loan from Bournemouth, and a lot of people are frustrated on that aspect. And truly, if I am being honest with you, would I have loved to have something in that paperwork that suggested that if Max Aarons comes here and is a success, we've already got that conversation started, we've already got that ball rolling about keeping him at the club regarding an option to buy or an obligation to buy. In a perfect world, I would have loved to have that, because again, me personally, I believe that Max Aarons has every single tool required to start patching up the part of the park that he's going to go ahead and play, that's been bleeding and hurting this club for far, far too long. And we will touch on that more when we go ahead and talk about the actual player himself, but I think he is going to be a success, or he has all the tools to be a success. Aye, a good option to buy or obligation to buy would have been fantastic, but it's not there. And aye, that is a shame, but again, it's not going to turn me against this deal, and I'm not going to start looking negatively regarding it, because if I'm sitting here in 12 months time devastated that we're not getting to keep Max Aarons, that means Max Aarons went ahead and played really well, and hopefully that means that this team's also played pretty damn well. You know what I mean? That will be happy. Maybe he is taking the next Cherny role, who was obviously the previous one on the SEMA. Never fall in love with a lone player. Maybe Max Aarons is going to be the next chapter in that painful reminder of a cheeky wee book, right? It might end up being that, but again, that's if he is a success, or he could come here, pull his hammy day, and go out for months and he plays 10 times a year. There's no certain guarantee with any types of loans, and I think Rangers fans, with the loans we've had over the last couple of years, because there has been some successes, but there has been some frustrating failures as well. There is no genuine recipe for success, and I think even with the fancy bells and the whistles, it doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to work out. The likes of Malik Tillman, remember him? He had a cheeky wee option to buy, came up the road, won Young Player of the Year, scored loads of goals, sparkled in some performances, frustrated in others, but certainly looked like a prospect. Did we go ahead and sign a Malik Tillman who's now scoring for his country and worth all these millions, 30 odd millionaire? No, we never, because that option to buy that we had included in the loan deal was pretty much worthless, as Bayern Munich came in, bought themselves out of that clause, chucked us some pennies, and then punted Malik Tillman for more money than had been originally put in place regarding the option to buy. The funny money, the silly money that all the clubs seemingly have are able to do that these days. So the option to buy is almost worthless if they go ahead and kick on and really exceed their potential of playing performance, right? And then you look at it the next again year, what did we go ahead and do? We went ahead and got an obligation to buy, which is the best thing to do. You know what I mean? You're bringing in somebody alone and he's definitely here here? Well, his name is Oscar Cortez, and there will be a lot of people watching today's video will look you directly in the eye and scream, that is the worst bit of business we have done in years. And that's a scary list to be sitting on the top of. Right now, me personally, I think Cortez will start to turn the narrative regarding the laddie, but again, you're talking about an option to buy, that never worked out, and so far we had an obligation to buy, that's also not really worked out. So again, I'm sitting back and I'm looking at the frustration and the arguments and that's going on, and I'm just sitting here like, you know what, if he comes here for 12 months and plays really well and devastates me, that'll be alright, ladies and gentlemen, because that means he's played well again and his team's hopefully played very, very well. And who knows, you know what I mean? Just because it's a loan doesn't necessarily mean we only sign him next summer. It's just the way that's went out. And there will also be people shouting saying, why do we not just go and buy him this summer then, CJ? Because he's available on loan. And again, that's just common sense regarding some football, because instead of wasting whatever part of the budget would have been to sign a Max Aarons who's available on loan, you get to bring in Max Aarons still, but you get to use that money to strengthen other areas which clearly we need to strengthen, and as there has to be a massive overhaul as our squad is absolute dross for the most part, despite its sprinklings of very good quality and below or above average, I should say, in certain other positions. But again, for me, it just makes sense. So that's my opinion on the loan. Is it a shame we didn't have an option to buy or see something in the paperwork that we could potentially get excited about? Aye, it is. But again, none of them, especially options to buy, really means anything these days. And just because it is a straight loan doesn't necessarily mean he won't love it here and do well and we go ahead and sign him next summer. There's just no guarantees. But aye, all I'm hoping, ladies and gentlemen, is that for the 12 months that he is definitely here at the minimum, Max Aarons takes off and be's the player we all hope he can be. And don't worry, I'm not just going to sit here and repeat the exact same mental notes that I done for the rumour video or anything like that, but there is some similarities that are clearly going to have to be mentioned, because in case you don't know a single thing about Max Aarons, you've heard me saying he's got the tools to plug the holes in the shirt and he'll stop the bleeding. What does that actually mean? Well, he is a fullback, maybe the quintessential modern fullback, who is built on pace, the power, and more importantly, the ability to run all frickin' day. And that is what modern day fullbacks are required today. It's bombing up, it's bombing down, it's bombing up and bombing down. And even if you are the biggest Tav hater there is around the place and you've clearly turned your head on Tav, you could probably appreciate or at least admit for the majority of Tavernier's career that is what he was able to do. And now year 10 coming up for year 10, at least is it any wonder why you're sitting looking at him after the last 12 to 18 months not being able to do all that? Nah, ladies and gentlemen, 10 years of playing 50 odd games, or a minimum of 50 odd games a season, will take you in anybody's knees. So where we've lost that ability to bomb up and down, you're breaking up a 25-year-old who is ready to go, who's got that in his locker. And again, I think that right away just improves that right hand side and makes us good going forward, but more importantly legs going back, and not as available and easy to counter every single time with a single ball in behind, or if there's a bad pass when we're all pressing up, there's no got the legs to go back. This guy, again, is the meat, and I say that not as just a wee silly daft joke, but if you're a certain age, you know exactly what that means. And instead of me sitting here prattling on about acceleration rate and his sprint speed and I expected this, or anything like, I say meat, everybody knows the boy is rapid. And again, that is badly needed in that right hand side, and that for me is why he has all the tools. It's the pace, it's the power, and it's the ability to run all day. And again, for me, when you just strip it away and you take all your heart and all your soul at it and you just look at it logically, you look at the problems we have as a team from the right back area, our weaknesses, if you start to look at it fairly, is actually the strengths, or the listed strengths of a Max Aarons. And if you look at the Max Aarons, his strengths that he's got, his name and his traits, and you start to compare it with what Russell Martin wants and his players, especially from his fullback, it's tick, 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 tick. So it is maybe the biggest no-brainer you could ever possibly get, in my personal opinion. But let's talk about what he does then with his ball, because he's not just a pace merchant that can run all day. He's comfortable on the ball, you know what I mean? He does do a lot of dribbles, he does try to take a lot of men on. Again, that's the confidence you get if you are a pacey player. You think you can just get beyond people. But one thing he is good at, ladies and gentlemen, I think he will do it in a Rangers shirt if he's given the fouls, that is get behind the man, win cheap free kicks for us and give us opportunities to load the boat box and give us loads of opportunities to put crosses into the mixer, because he is so fast, he is so direct, he gets wiped out a lot, he gets tripped up a lot, and they just stop him any way necessary. And that could bring yellow cards to the opposition if the referees are doing their job right. It could put pressure on defences, but again, the way he plays, getting out there in the chalk on the boots motif, it's not constantly cutting inside just to pass it, it's getting away wide out there, comfortable on the ball and driving to put, and some crosses could really open the game up and again bring us back to a wee bit more unpredictability rather than being the painfully predictable side, in my opinion, we've been for at least a year and a half. And I think based on what we've talked about so far, most of it has been promising and obviously encouraging, especially from a Rangers perspective and what we need to see at this club. But again, there's no such thing as the perfect player. Now, some of you actually might be screaming at me, Cruyff, Maradona, Messi, Ronaldo, right? Fair enough in that, right? But certainly Max isn't. Ladies and gentlemen, wish he was, but he's no the perfect player. There is obviously cons and there will be some negatives to go with that, because we talk about how good he is at getting wide, how good he is at beating a man, how good he is at getting the cross off, but is he a prime Barisic / Tavernier in terms of his crossing and assist numbers? Nah, ladies and gentlemen, you know what I mean? Is he the goal threat that Tavernier is with the late runs into the box and the headers for here and the volleys for outside the box, the free kick? Nah, he's not that either, ladies and gentlemen. But again, Tavernier is an absolute unicorn when it comes to that, and we'll never see that again. Top goal scorer in UK history for defenders, etc, etc. His statistical output will never be matched, and it's unfair in my opinion to try and compare that to Max Aarons. And when we're having the conversation, it's obviously going to be here, it's been in the rumour video, and it's going to be later on in the actual video as well when we look at it, when it's Max Aarons versus Tav. If you look at it from a statistical sheet and you chuck it all in there, it's going to heavily favour from the attacking output Tavernier every single time, and it will make Max look bang average. But the most important thing you need to take away when you are chucking all those stuff together is Tav isn't Tav anymore. You know what I mean? And that sucks to say and it hurts to say, but Father Time is undefeated. You know what I mean? And Tavernier is at that point of his career where it probably always will chip away right there. You know what I mean? Max is maybe at the age where it's sink or swim, absolutely. Being 25, is he going to kick on and be the player a lot of people expect him to be either on his career, or is just where he is, hit and miss, hit and miss. That's up to there. But again, I'd rather have somebody with the opportunity to do that rather than on the decline. So I think that is important when you're talking about the conversation points and the positional debates and the massive debates online. Tavernier is an absolute unicorn, and I'll never take anything away from what he'd done at this club with the goals and the assists, but they've started to dry up, and what's left is the other stuff, and the other stuff isn't great. And again, Max, who isn't the perfect player or anything like that, is that's pretty good a lot of the other stuff, and I think that's again what Rangers needs. And I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's my age, I don't know if it was the sun baking my skin when I got that sunburn, but for me I always feel like defenders should have a bit of defending in them as well, and I think that is where we're going to look at next, right? Because again, we've talked enough about the attacking perspective, but what about in the wide back? Because that's where we are bleeding. Well, one of Max's best attributes is the 1v1 defender, right? He's got good interceptions and all that stuff. His aerial duels and that isn't that great, but again, he's a right back in that perspective, so we're not really going to look at that. But I really like the 1v1 duel, because again, for me as a Rangers fan, when I watch Rangers games and I'll watch games, I'm watching him in a way. I'm not talking about Celtic, I'm talking about my aid or it. I'm not going there. I'm not even talking about Europe and the competition and some of the players that ran it. Tavernier, Tav's had some good bits as well, by the way, but overall where we are right now, I'm just stripping it back and I'm looking at the other guys in the SPFL. I'm talking about the bread and butter. I'm talking about what shouldn't be running all over Ibrox's surface. I'm talking about every single team in the SPFL whose wage budget would struggle to buy a tin of Pringles for Tesco if they didn't have their frickin' club card with them. I'm talking about them breaking every club record last season. I feel like every 2 weeks somebody was breaking a record. They were beating us at Ibrox back to back, back to back. And again, I'm not saying it's all Tavernier's fault, but one of the main issues was our defence was absolutely chronic last year. It was slow, it was dreadful, it couldn't tackle none, couldn't win a duel, and that was everywhere. It wasn't just a right back, you know what I mean? The centre backs are laughable. Again, none of them would start if it was up to me. The left back, again, Jeff was hit and miss. Some day couldn't track an order on Just Eat, the next again day it was weird, right? The defensive backline was absolutely chronic, and again, for me, the right hand side was an area that teams knew they could attack with raw pace, because Jeff, for all his faults, has got pace, so I wasn't really gone doing that way. The runners were all doing that side of Rangers, and again, I'm sick to death watching that. The Matty Kennedys, the Caddens, the Kilties, all having career games versus us in the last 12 to 18 months, making a name for himself, getting high crosses percentage. Declan John running riot in 2025, causing panic and chaos every time he touched the ball. It can't be that way. Ibrox needs to be a place that's feared, no a place that's, oh, this is a bigger part, I'm going to be able to run in behind there, because Professor Xavier would be able to gallop by our right hand side, because it was so chronic to watch. So again, he goes in there not only with the pace, but that dual ability to win a challenge and get stuck in and defend is very, very welcome in my personal opinion. It's something we badly been needing at this club, somebody that relishes that duel. And again, a lot of that is helped by his raw pace, because when folk try to take him on, his numbers are inflated, because he just, even if he's out of position, even if he is caught up the putt, he's got the recovery pace as well. But just the fact he likes the duel, he's got upper body strength as well. He does get stuck in, maybe gets stuck in too much with some of his challenges you see online, but he's got a wee bit of sun about him, and he's not afraid to put himself about. And I think we just need that bite. And I think last season and everything like that, right, I know Tavernier had some good games, but you remember that wee 5-6 game spell when Ridvan went to play right back? Mind the handcuffs they put on Maeda, and he looked so good. Do you know why that was? Because he's faster than Tav, and we actually had a wee bit of pace. Now obviously Ridvan goes and burns out after 5-6 games because he's the energised bunny, goes, charges, comes, looks good, but then falls away. But you saw what some pace down the right hand side looked like, and it did improve the area slightly in my opinion. And for me, we're taking a massive jump up for Ridvan to Max. That's more pace, and again, he's got the comfortability of being an actual right back, not a left back playing on the right hand side. So we saw some glimpses of what it can look like on the right hand side when we've got some pace. Well, now we've added genuine pace in there, and somebody that likes to get stuck in and who's actually a right back. So for me, again, I really like it. And I think that's enough talking about the actual player himself and the player profile, right? I think we've talked about some pros, we've talked about some of his strengths, we've talked about some of his weaknesses, because he is obviously a player and you just never ever know. Has he got the raw attributes to be a success? In my opinion, aye. Will that translate to success? You just never know with players. But something I think that is vastly overlooked, and it's not really a big part of the conversation, is the connection he actually has with the manager and the assistant manager. And I think this goes into a big conversation, because again, everyone's wanting to talk about Tav versus Aarons. Who starts? For me, it will be Aarons overall in the season, right? And I think that is the case, because look at the projects that he could have went to, look at the options he had available. I mean, he went to Valencia 6 months ago. That doesn't just go away overnight, even though it never quite worked out. The guy playing right back was actually just playing alright. I mean, that is fair enough. He's still had other options there, but he's chosen the Rangers project for numerous reasons, in my opinion, and one of them will be game time, but again, it's based on the connection. As long before he was ever attached to Rangers, so it's no puff piece, birthday card pish or anything like that, ladies and gentlemen. When he sat on podcast after podcast and talked about how he was developing as a player, who connected with him, he talked about Matt Gill, who's obviously the assistant now, or the assistant to Russell Martin, the office joke. He's in the building. He trained him when he was 16, 18, 21, all the way through the ages. They've got a real understanding. He knows how to get the best out of him. And obviously our head coach, Russell Martin, in his very own words from Max Aarons' mouth, called Russell Martin almost a father figure. So there you're getting someone, not just bringing in a loanee who's not going to be wanting to play here and not going to be able to do anything, he's just up here for a wee holiday or something like that. You've got a guy that is choosing this project as the one to rejuvenate his career and relight his career, which was hell of a promising a couple of years ago, but because of injuries and falling out of favour, it's sort of to simmer a wee bit. He's choosing this project right here with people he knows that he understands, and again, more importantly, they understand him and how to get the best out of him. Which, when I take a step back and I read that and I see that and I listen to that, to me it screams a player that's motivated, and it screams a management / coaching team that is motivated to get him back to his best as well. And that for me is why the conversations and debate of who's going to be the starter, who's going to be the nailed on, is almost a bit daft in my opinion, because to me it screams that it's Max Aarons, because I don't think Max is choosing this project if he's not being held at least conversations about getting the game time that he requires. And for me, I don't think Russell Martin goes ahead and brings in somebody like that if he is just going to chuck him on the bench and waste them away, because that's not the relationship they've got either, by the way. So for me, this one screams that he is here to not only be a replacement, but to hopefully be an improvement on the product we've seen from the right back spot over the last year. So that pretty much ends the debates, in my personal opinion. That's the way I'm looking at it. Again, it could all vastly change to Panathinaikos. Aarons could be the number 2, you know what I mean? He could replace Tavernier. Tavernier could be kicked at the club. That could happen as well. But maybe, just maybe, right? And I have been thinking about this. I know I kind of mentioned it a wee bit in the rumour video, but this loan move might be exactly what Tavernier needs at this point of his career, right? Because again, love him or hate him, he has ran himself into the ground for his football club over the last 10 years, playing over 50 games every single freaking season without fail. Bang, 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 bang. That's taking your knees away for you, right? And that's why he does look tired and does drop off at the end of the season. If you bring in Max Aarons, right, who is going to be the starter, in my opinion, eventually work his way, but then you've still got Tavernier in there to rotate after Europe or come in for that. Or if we're chasing a goal in a game, if it is nippy, if it is tight, and we can bring in the likes of James, Henry, Tavernier, who again still got an eye for a goal, can still run in at the back post and can still create and score types of free kicks and everything like that. For me, that is a strong right back spot there, and I think that would be a benefit to the club. Because do I think Max coming on loan for 12 months is going to be meaning Tavernier is sold? Nah, I didn't see that happening. But again, it could be the best to him because it takes the burden away if you need to play 50 odd games again, and then we can pick and choose and when we use Tavernier's strengths, which is clearly on the attacking perspective, and maybe no having him running into the ground 6 months into the season could be an actual benefit the latter the stages goes on, because you never know with injuries, you never know with rotations, you never know with European campaigns. It's good to have that 1-2 combo. That was the success that Gerrard eventually built into the team. That's what he built it on, having 2 players for every position. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom or one or the other. We could actually see a strong right back spot with 2 different strengths, absolutely, but strengths we'll need throughout a season if we're going to navigate it and hopefully be a success. Or none of that happens, ladies and gentlemen, and what we see is Tavernier get dropped back to the right centre back spot, and we play a variant of a 3-5-2, which Russell Martin's obviously done in his career both at Swansea and Southampton, and I believe even at MK Dons, as he changes his formation quite a bit. And Tavernier could be a ball playing defender, as he had a couple games with mixed success at the centre back spot. But again, I know every single person's just got nervous because they've heard the word ball playing defender again. I'm sick to death of filling our club with ball playing defenders. Is there any chance we can fill our club with defenders that can defend? That would just be me. But I feel like that's enough conversation regarding the position debate and whether he is going to start. To finish off with some numbers and stats to no really fire everything at you in terms of what we've done in the rumour video, but maybe to break down how he's available at 25, right? I'm saying he's good when he's good, but he's had some iffy moments. He's not really lived up to the hype. So what does that actually mean, CJ? Well, again, he burst onto the scene, played pretty well, had over 90 games in the Premier League, over 100 games in the Championship, even had some experience in Spanish football, despite it being 5 games and everything like that. But again, how is he available on loan if he is such a well-rounded player and potential to do this? Well, it's pretty simple. He started 13 of the opening 14 games for Bournemouth after moving from Norwich, done his hammy, and by the time he actually came back fully and was able to go, the guy that was playing in front of him was playing a blinder. And do you know who the guy that was playing in front of him was? Their captain, ladies and gentlemen, who got moved from the centre of the park down to right back. So it was pretty much curtains. But again, I'm not going to judge the boy in the fact he is available, or maybe he's not quite worked out at Valencia, or it's never quite worked out at Bournemouth, because again, different scenarios, different environments can bring out different results, especially performances. And you didn't need me to sort of tell Rangers fans that, you know what I mean? Some of your best players have been players that's failed at other clubs, you know what I mean, before coming up the road. Now, I'm going to do a wee comparison, but I didn't want you to go too crazy and scream at me in the comments section below, because I'm not saying he's like God. But do you remember God, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brian Laudrup? He was having to hide in boots in Florentina to get away. That's how badly they didn't like him earlier. Now he comes up the road to us and he's just the best player we've ever seen. Now again, I'm not saying Max Aarons is going to be Brian Laudrup, but I'm saying there's a player that was literally hiding in boots in his book, ladies and gentlemen, because it wasn't working out. Sometimes you're just getting yourself out of a scenario, finding a manager that can get the best of you, something that you can connect with to get your game back to its best. And again, everything on paper sounds good with Max Aarons. Is it going to translate to on the park? I really, really hope so, but you just never know with loans. You never know with signings, and all I can hope is Max Aarons, with that understanding with Gill and Russell Martin, can get this kid back to his best, because if he looks back to his best and kicks on, we could be in with a fantastically talented player that, again, is badly needed doing that right hand side. Again, he's got plenty of experience, over 245 games in his career. Hasn't played much over the last year and a bit after struggling with injuries and then falling out of favour and then going to Valencia, but he's fully fit, he's ready to rock and roll, and he's wanting to play games. My God, is this Czerny that we're talking about? It sounds very, very familiar, and again, hopefully Max can have the type of impact that Czerny had with just a bit more team success. That would be absolutely fantastic. But that's me done and dusted. I'm fully preparing myself for Max Aarons being the next chapter in the book of Never Fall in Love with a lone player, but I imagine it's going to be an interesting ride either freaking way. But that's my opinion on it. I'm delighted he's here. What about you? Let me know your opinions down there in the old comments section below. Are you happy, you mad, you sad, or are you glad? I've tried to cover everything without boring you and repeating everything in the rumour video. Hopefully I've done alright. I do appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching. Shout out to the channel members, the channel subscribers, the channel supporters and all that as well. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. And to every single person who tunes in and watches every single game, that hits the like button and everything like that. Again, I couldn't be doing any of this without any, so I greatly appreciate all that, and hopefully I bring you some more good news. I know some of you are annoyed that it's a loan, but overall it's good news in my opinion, and I imagine it's going to be a busy summer now that the first domino is starting to fall. But aye, till next time, I've been CJ92. Thank you all so much for watching. All the best, and bye bye.